House meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Sir. Carrie is excused. Paul is excused. Joe Watty.
Here.
Robert Laramie.
I'm here.
All right, Brent Peavy.
Here.
Bill Shannon here. Dave Childers.
Here, we have a quorum. Okay. Agenda's before you. Anything you want to correct? Talked about on the agenda. If not, if it stand passes with unanimous consent. Next, we have the consent agenda. Anything to be taken out? To be discussed.
Being no discussion, I move to accept.
Motion made by Laraway to accept the consent agenda. Is there a second? Seconded by Latte. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carried. Agenda item number 5, as you know, we've been around long enough that we have to, the first meeting in January, reappoint people to their positions. Page, let's see, page that.
Wait, wait, wait.
36. So those are the current officers. And committee members. This is the opportunity to realign that if the council so desires.
I would like to stay on as treasurer, I'd like to be replaced on planning commission.
Okay. Bob would like to be replaced on the planning commission. Let's do it this way. Let's go from the top down. So then there's no, that's noted.
Page 3.
So that somebody can run the meeting. If it's not me, it's somebody else. So. Is everybody comfortable with what's there on the position of president, president pro tem, village clerk, deputy village clerk, and village treasurer? Bob, do you still want to be president pro tem?
Yes.
Okay. You still want to be treasurer? Because
Yes.
you got 4 things. Okay. Brent, I'd like to get you doing something in here. Carol, you still want to be village clerk?
Sure,
Okay,
unless somebody else would like it, but I'm thinking, no.
deputy village clerk, Paul. Paul has indicated by way of email that he wouldn't, or yeah, by text, I guess, wasn't it? That he wouldn't mind Brent having you go in one of those positions, like if you wanted to be deputy village clerk. And then maybe a couple other committee members, ships. Would you be amenable to that?
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay,
Means occasionally you might have to sign checks or some document or something.
yeah.
Order stamp.
Order
Yes, there you
stamp,
go.
yeah.
Or more importantly, in the event that we are without a clerk, you would assume that position, just like our charter says, if the president is
Right.
gone.
Bob is the president.
Oh, true, so you'd have to do
Yeah.
the forms and stuff. It's not very hard.
Okay, I will still continue as those, if it meets everybody's approval. So we take this slate of candidates and everybody's pretty comfortable with that and put Paul, replace Paul with Brent. Is that okay? Does that meet with everybody's approval?
Works for me.
Okay. So we'll have that slate of officers with that correction. Planning Commission, Bob's on 4 things, and that's the one he wants off of, and I don't blame him. That meets once a month. the first, or the third Monday or the second
They
Tuesday?
meet the week before us.
Yeah, week before us, not the day before.
They meet 6 to 8 times a year roughly, so.
Yeah, it doesn't meet every.
Not anymore. No, we haven't for a few years now, so.
Will that change as we pursue cityhood?
Shouldn't.
Okay.
Doing the master plan this year has been more.
That's where I started off. I was on the planning commission first. Before you were here, Tim. Yeah, so I was zoning commissioner.
But I wouldn't anticipate more than 6 to 8 is pretty normal.
Brent, would you be willing to do that?
No, I'm not doing 2 meetings.
You're not gonna what?
No, I'm not doing 2 meetings.
2 meetings?
2 meetings a month is too much for me.
Okay.
It's just, I mean, I don't know, I got young kids, I mean, maybe in a few years.
Okay.
As they grow up, but, you know, it's, I'd like to start going to meetings, but I just,
Yeah, that's fine. I get it. I got another one for you then. Joe, would you like to do that?
Zoning,
No, it's planning.
planning commission, okay, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Have you ever done that? You've done it already, haven't you?
yeah,
Yes,
he's
I
done
thought.
all that. He's done
You've done it all.
in the other.
Yeah.
District you were in. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, good. So make that, well, planning commission then. And, ZBA. Brent. Now ZBA only meets how many times?
We met twice last year, we met once the year before, and what we need more than anything is an alternate member. So we have 5 members right now, assuming you guys affirm the plan commission's selection of Jeff, which,
Sure.
so the law allows you to have alternate members. So in the event that you wouldn't have one of those 5 regular members, an alternate member could serve in that capacity. So
And they don't meet very often. And that gets you on
alternate
that,
works.
yeah, and that gets you on the, okay, Brent will do that then as
Thank
an
you.
alternate.
That's ZBA.
CBA alternate.
Alternate, okay. And then, is everyone up pretty satisfied with the rest of the slate? Yeah? Okay,
I think so.
I talked to Carrie through text. She said she was fine staying on liaison and public safety committee. We, by default, I'm our rep for the Council of Governments. I don't ever go because it's the night after our regular meeting. That's never been a problem for anyone here because no one else is wanted to do it. But if anyone would like to be our rep to the Council of Governments and attend those meetings, you are more than welcome to have that role.
What does that mean?
The Council of Governments is basically an offshoot of the MTA, Michigan Township Association. But it's supposed to meet monthly, it rotates around the county, and they try and bring in typically a speaker, you know, like you've had Commission on Aging, you've had the sheriff there. It's a networking event for townships more than anything else. And for me, it's a schedule wise, you know, I'm already out 2 nights this week already. It's like, I don't want to be out third night, you know.
Is there any reason somebody here should go?
I always send you guys the agenda and you guys are always welcome to go. But we don't have a formal, this is the person, if they want someone to go, it's me, you know, it's like. 2 years ago, the leadership of the county used that meeting as a way to break the ice that they were in financial harm, for lack of a better word. They had a council of governments meeting in March of 23. They made sure everybody attended from every unit, you know, so the city was there, you know, I was there, Shepherd was there. The people who typically don't go, because it's usually township stuff. And that's where they said, hey, we're building a new jail and we just realized we need 3 mills to sustain current operations. You guys think we're gonna be able to get this? And then we don't think you're gonna be able to get that, guys. So,
looks like you still have a job.
as long as nobody's offended when I don't go to it.
I don't think so.
All right.
All right. Well, good. Then we have our candidates or our, not candidates, but our officers. And there are some things to go to coming up. Tim's going to present later, so. Those are things to keep in mind if you're on the ZBA or on the planning commission.
And even if you're not, like the introduction to planning and zoning or planning and zoning essentials, that's a fundamental one that everyone should have under their belt. I mean,
Yeah.
just-
So those things are there.
Chat with you about that.
Yeah. And that's all I have. For my part too, as far as that, just that announcing that those, and you've got them in your packet. Those registrations for those Council of Governments, Association, Michigan Association of Planning. Mr. Manager, you're up.
Do we have a motion to accept the?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that. So. Is there a motion to accept those officers and committee members as presented? I move that.
Yeah.
Seconded by Laraway. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Joe Latte,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. And Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries. Now,
Alrighty. We have, as of yesterday, published the RFP for the next project on the restoration efforts. It's available on our website. We direct mail to 8 firms. I'm gonna have it in the Morning Sun every other Sunday between now and the end of February, which is when the bid deadline is, with projected award at our March council meeting roughly. So the lake committee will need to be meeting in early March to review those. Everyone on the committee got sent the document reviewed beforehand, and I'm also gonna look at doing an ad in like the West Michigan Builders Guide or something like that. We had to do it for our MDOT project this year, and it was free, it was like $50, but especially because we're doing more than likely hydraulic dredging this time. Make sure that we get that word out to more than just our local earth moving type companies that you know, we're interested in the Birch Bay because that was a mechanical project. That project is wrapped up, boat launch, poured, dried. Nelly will be back in the spring to do some like seeding, restoration, that type of stuff, but we got their bill and got the check to them for that. After paying that, the Lake Restoration Fund has about $124,000 in it right now to carry us through until the start of the tax collection in July. We also have another 19,000 roughly outstanding from the 24 taxes that we'll get at settlement with the county. So we'll be in the 145 to 150 range at the start of fiscal year 25. When we're anticipating collecting another 330,000 roughly. So that pile of money together is what's gonna pay for the project that we're bidding out right now.
And we're doing the project we're bidding out now when? Next fall?
This fall, late summer of 25.
Oh, 25, got it, that's what I meant, yeah,
Yeah, we
okay,
are in 25 now.
that's true,
There it is.
okay, fine.
In your package, you have information from the Michigan Association of Planning, some upcoming opportunities. I have taken in the past several of these. The managing risk was a good one that I would recommend anyone take. I'm gonna take the Blight Be Gone. It's a new one. It's a virtual one. Anyone that just wants to get a good foundation on planning and zoning, there's the essentials. There's a Zoom option, back-to-back nights there. If you want to attend any of these, let me know. We'll get you signed up. This information has been shared with the Planning Commission. We'll get it out to ZBA. I'm also going to send out tomorrow information from Michigan State University. There are some upcoming opportunities there. One of them is about inland lakes. So I'll share that obviously with the association as well. Our 2010 F-250, which is the flatbed salter for those of you storing at home, is down for repairs. We'll hopefully have it back by the end of the week. 13 belt brakes and a new ABS module.
that's what it was.
ABS module, and that kind of acts like the the mothership of sending signals to other systems in there because we got in and
Cause all the lights,
all the lights on the dashboard were blinking like it was still Christmas. So that'll be about $2,000 is what the price tag on that is. Started looking at replacement, options long-term. That is a 15-year-old vehicle. It only has 80,000 miles on it at this point in time. When we purchased that, we paid 24,500 for it roughly, give or take. When we bought the 2019, that's our other truck, we paid 30,500 roughly. The state bid contract price right now on a new F-250 is about $54,000 with the stuff that we want. $58,000 will get you into an F-350 dually.
I think that's.
It doesn't have the bed on it, but to me, at that point in time, I think you're better off to get the F-350 dually option.
Yeah.
Put the dump bed on that and you would have a far more versatile vehicle for what we do than just another pickup truck. And with the F-250 price skyrocketing, that gap is
Pretty
shrunk
narrow
considerably.
now.
Yeah. It's not like before where it's 30,000 and 60,000.
Right.
You're 60,000 and 70,000 now. It's like, you're already in for a boatload of money.
Why do you want a dually?
What's that?
Why do you want a dually?
Haul the tractor better,
Oh,
haul stuff.
they just suck in the snow.
Do they?
That's why I asked, yeah.
Hmm.
They're sweet for hauling.
Yeah.
but they're not as.
Not
in
good
the
for
snow.
plowing.
No,
Well,
oh, not at all.
Well, you can get a 350, without dually.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah, you can get.
Yeah.
Or just airbag,
true.
'cause you can get like manual add airbags for like $500.
Yeah.
They're sweet, you can put,
Well, I know, see them on your truck.
yeah. You can,
I've thought about putting them on the 2010, but it's like, it's 2010, like it's a 15-year-old truck. I don't,
why waste your time? putting it on
Exactly.
and decommission
So
it?
you figure that it would do the same as a 350, the 250 with airbags?
The only difference between a 250 and a 350 is the leaf springs in the back.
yeah,
Is that it?
You know,
Oh. Okay.
so if you
Well,
just.
that
put-
makes
You can
sense.
change springs and all, you don't want to bag it.
Yeah, you just bag it, so then you don't have to, a little softer ride, and then if you need to haul something heavy, you just put an air chuck on it and. Or even like when you're running that salter, so it's not sagging.
Yeah.
It'll sit level.
Yeah.
You can
That's a
put
good
whatever
idea.
you, whatever you want in there.
I didn't know that was the only difference.
Yeah,
That and dualies.
Yeah.
Your suspension.
dualies are sweet, I'd love to have one, but they don't do good in the snow, that's why I don't have one.
Okay.
we have a ADA request that we'll be working on this month. Former village council member and clerk Jeff Gray, I'm sure has a hearing issue, and under the Americans with Disability Act, we do need to make a reasonable accommodation for anyone at our meetings with a hearing, so we will be getting prices to do some type of system. As a public facility, we have to make that accommodation, so not a big deal. City of Mount Pleasant is still crunching numbers to get us, numbers to consider for police options with them. They're hopeful, very, very hopeful. We'll have it for our February meeting is what they're saying. Today I had 2 meetings in Lansing, and boy, let me tell you, that was a fun drive. Especially the further south you got. Roads were great here. They were horrible down there. And just a side note, when it's -5 degrees and all of your parking machines outside are electronic, they freeze and don't work.
Oh, fun.
So
So everybody got tickets.
nobody got tickets. But the first meeting I had was, the MML legislative policy kickoff. As you know, I'm on the board of trustees for the municipal league, and I chair the land use and economic development committee for the past 14 years. These are the top 8 in order of the policy, targets that the league is focused on for this session of the legislature. One is the creation of the revenue sharing trust fund. They got that through the House in the last session, but it did not make it out of the Senate during Lady Doc. What this would do is essentially create a way to protect statutory revenue sharing from future budget whims of the state. So right now, that can be altered during a regular appropriations committee meeting. It goes out to the floor. This would force a full vote on the floor to alter your revenue sharing to local government. So it helps to prevent the state balancing their budget on our backs. We've got good support in the House. You've got a lot of former local government people who have, you know, climbed that government ladder from city councils and that kind of stuff to be in the House, so they're very supportive. It made it out of the House last year like 106-4, but it didn't get through the Senate. There's, and I'll email you this document tomorrow that's got all these, but working on the interaction between Headley and Proposal A. So that is obviously, you know, the rollback, pop-ups. We had a lady call last week that was like, hey, my property taxes went through the roof. What happened? You bought a house that had never uncapped, and so your taxable value like doubled, so. They want to create a neighborhood roads fund. The preliminary numbers I saw on this last year were real money, like talking an extra probably 40-50 grand for us at Lake Isabella level. That was the size of pool that they were talking about. So that'd be specific to your local streets, not your major streets, but your side streets that most people live on.
So where would that money come from? For that?
Appropriating stuff out of the state's general fund is my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay.
Obviously, revitalization and placemaking has always been a lead priority. Employer housing tax credit, so trying to help the housing issues in the state by creating the tax credit for employers that are gonna provide housing for their staff. Local control over short-term rentals, Michigan Mobility Trust Fund, and stormwater utility implementation. I'll email you the document tomorrow or even tonight when I get back to the office. But it has all these spelled out, like here's the priority, here's what the issue is. So. It'll be an interesting legislative session because you have split control of the legislature. You have the Republicans in the House and the Dems in the Senate with a 1-seat majority, so. In years past, when you've had similar type situations, there's been no rhyme or reason to what makes it out and why, like. It was so-and-so's turn to get their bill pushed through and, you know, like, okay. It's what we're voting on this week, so.
They're talking about changing that sick time bill too.
Yeah,
They're talking about it. I don't know if they're gonna be able to get it done.
You don't think it's gonna happen?
I don't know. I mean, you've got the Senate Dems that are probably not too eager to do it, and then you have the governor's office, so. But we'll see. I think the tipped wage is their bigger priority of those two issues in the sick time law. But. Yeah,
Any questions? Okay, thank you. I assume nothing from LaPaul?
No.
Okay. There are no public hearings. First opportunity for public comment. Seeing none, we'll go on to existing business. Proposed ordinance 2024-04, page 58. Mr. Mann.
well, I'm here to share what the buzz is all about.
Good one.
Dad joke of the day right there, folks.
Good old dad.
Good old dad. Last week we put a survey up online and we had a story in the Morning Sun on Sunday. We had 115 people visit our website and take the survey. So a little less than before. You have the hard copy data right there, but the highlights. 75% of those support a permit requirement. 40% support limiting the number of permits available. 39% feel the ordinance allow too many bee colonies. 53 feel the ordinance is about right for the number of bee colonies allowed. 41% feel there should be an increased setback from dwellings. Currently it's at 100 feet. 46 feel it's about right. 45% feel the flyaway barrier distance should be more than 25 feet from property lines. When we kind of break it down by zoning district, so we had a map question on there. By your zoning districts, LR5 and ag, pretty decent support there, 71%. LR2 in the airport area, just a hair over half, 51%. And less than half support in the other districts. And at the end of the day, 44 were opposed to it being adopted, 56 supported either adoption or amendment then adoption of what's in front of you. So per your guys' request, I included all of the past data, reports, that kind of stuff that we had in there. And if you do want to make changes to the draft, please remember, it will have to go through and have another public hearing before you can take action.
Okay, folks, what's our pleasure?
A couple of the ordinances mention the kind of bees. Do we mention that?
No, we do not.
Should we?
We don't know.
I don't either. I mean, why would you want anything but a honeybee, but one never knows?
It's always the gaps.
You don't get to control what makes a colony big, yeah? They kind of just come on their own, don't they?
Well, you can
You
buy.
can buy those.
Oh,
You can buy a queen
Queen
and some workers and you're all set.
Yeah, they will bring others back.
Yes, they will.
That's how most do it.
Yeah.
To start.
Right.
No, I'm not kidding.
It's a kit, yeah.
No, you buy a kit.
Yes,
Oh,
you do.
kit.
Yeah, you do.
No, they said you can.
No, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
So do we want to say what kind of bees, so that we don't have whatever the one was, the wild killer bees? I mean, somebody might want those,
The murder hornets?
yes. Well,
I don't know about her.
That's a domestic terrorist right there. I'm just saying.
yeah, for sure,
If somebody starts a colony of those intentionally, you know.
I know, it could be bad.
I would recommend to you that before you decide if you want to have specific types of bees, you need to decide if you want to have bees in general.
Oh, fine,
And where you want to allow
okay,
them, if you allow them anywhere.
okay. I also remember Brent being concerned about having permission to have bees on a lot. And the house, lot next door is vacant, then a house is built, how does that affect those people? Yeah. And one at in Boston, they set it up in such a way that if a house is built next door and they don't want your bees have to go. I don't know that we want that, but that's just, is that another issue we need to talk about if we choose to do bees?
Well, that would be given that any non-participating parcel has that ability.
Correct,
The only way it would make sense.
Yeah.
You know,
but do we want to state that?
Look, the house, they could know what's next door. I wouldn't put it in. The buyer beware.
And then if we revoke a permit, what are the rules involving that? Like what happens? Because I can tell you no, and you can continue to do what you want.
Agree with that.
Well, I think the first issue is whether or not we want to have it at all,
Right.
right?
I'd like to recommend that we have bees, but that we look at where we will approve them.
Like in what districts?
Yes. Mhm.
You have a map of those districts that we can put up?
And it's proper zoning map,
Yeah.
hopefully. Hopefully.
Which are LRs and LR 1, 2, and 5. Because we have some pretty big lots, 2 or 3 acre lots here that are
Yes, we
away
do.
from people.
Yes, we do. And we're not really a farming community, but we still are in the country, one, and people want to be able to provide food.
So the
You don't
yellow,
live off honey.
Come on, I could.
They actually can.
Yeah,
I know, yes.
yeah. Maybe take Ozempic.
okay,
Like diabetes.
So, in our zoning map here, white is LR1. LR2 is lemon yellow. LR3 is canary yellow. LR4 is mustard yellow. LR5 is orange. Air Park, obviously over here. Ag is green. So the hierarchy of how the lot system essentially works for our zoning. LR1, 2, and 3 are all small-ish platted lots from the original corporation. So these are 75 by 150 is a fair number. LR3, we created its own little district because of the unique challenges they have there in terms of the water table and that kind of stuff. We thought it was appropriate that they got a reduced setback scenario, so they had an easier development chance here. Than you would over here where you've got a larger lot and you know, worry about the water table, that kind of stuff. LR4, for lack of a better word, is coulee flats. These were all done around the mid-90s, early 90s, late 90s, and these are all your bigger, you know, acre and a half on up. So Pueblo Pass area, Whispering Pines, Bonita Bay, Plantinas Points 1 and 2, Camino Royale. Those are all bigger areas. And then LR5, when we went through and did this, we said, you know, it's not fair to those people who were never part of the corporation's land development pattern that were just surrounded by us to have to deal with zoning meant for this. So we gave LR5 its own zoning designation and with a lot more flexibility because they're not tied to any subdivision restrictions. So that in a nutshell. Ag is obviously our property here, lagoons, Maury's, and then books.
So the LR5 lot sizes are
They're big.
big,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
I think the smallest one is probably the Ferrello parents' house or these three up here.
Okay.
Other than that, they're, you know, even those are over an acre. You know, your LR4 and your LR5 geographically are your biggest lots or parcel that are zoned residential.
And the smaller ones, like LR1, you said,
LR1, 2, and 3 are all the original plats.
would you say more, majority of people in those areas own more than one lot?
I wouldn't say majority. I would say it's probably half.
I asked that because then.
Yeah, because you said the majority of those are approximately 75 by 150 feet,
Ballpark, yeah.
you know, so I mean.
Like I'm on 2, I'm 160 by 165.
Right. But
Yeah.
I'm on 2
You're
and
on 2.
both my across the street neighbors, the good, the bad, the ugly, they're all on multiple lots as well. Even Jamie, I think, has got three lots.
so what is that? Tan colored one is what, over here?
This,
Yeah,
Oh, no.
up above. Yeah,
this is LR2.
LR2, okay.
So in LR2, those 3 subdivisions, Forest 1, Forest 2,
Yeah.
and Woods 1. Were the 3 subdivisions that the original developers as well as Lake Isabella Shores. Allowed single wide mobile homes to go into as development option.
Right,
It's not a trailer park, it's not a mobile home park. They were allowed to build stick built or single wides.
yeah. So what's your thought about that, Carol? Because you brought it up.
Well,
The way to split the baby, is that what you're saying?
yes. It won't make everyone happy because there are people in the LR1, right? That
Mhm.
have chickens.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, we're talking honeybees.
Oh, honeybees, I meant honeybees, I'm sorry, I get confused about these things. Anyway, but I think that that would work if you have LR 4 and 5, those are bigger, would meet all the requirements we currently have,
Yeah, a lot of the smaller lots are gonna be,
it'd be difficult.
just simply because they're not gonna meet the 100-foot setbacks from an existing dwelling.
Yeah.
Now, that's not specified either in there, whether that includes their own dwelling, which would even further dampen their ability to be able to do so. It just says any existing dwelling, so I mean, their house,
Any is their house.
their house is an
Yeah.
existing dwelling, so I don't think I mean, realistically, the way we have it worded now, even if we word it just past the way it is, I think the majority of folks in that area are gonna be, unable to meet the setbacks.
It's existing dwelling on a neighboring property.
Okay,
Oh, got it, okay, so not my own, all right, okay, that helps.
But there are empty lots there, and then to Brent's point is, so you have your colony there, and then somebody buys a lot next to you. And builds their house, especially with the key lots,
right.
they're not gonna meet that setback anymore, and what provision do we provide for that, anything?
No, because it was existing.
It was existing. Okay,
If we try to provide for that, then we're gonna
Yeah.
have the same scenario that even existing neighboring ones are gonna be, well, if they have to say, why don't we? If we don't want bees in our yard, why can't we say we want the neighbors to have them too?
right,
And it's just,
Right.
Fortunately, I think that would snowball. It's gonna be hard to do it for one without raising a fuss with others, and
Yeah, good point.
I like the idea of, somehow somebody being able to, not necessarily make somebody get rid of their bees, but at least have to have them move them so that they do meet the setbacks. So when he does buy up a lot, puts a home there, they should be afforded the same restrictions, as any other neighboring property,
So given the response we have from people, if we were to approve LR 4 and LR 5 for bees,
Both those were 50% and above, so that they were for it.
No, that was ag and LR5.
And
Yeah.
5, okay.
LR4 was like 30%.
oh, okay,
yeah, so that becomes
that's an issue. That, we're against it or for it?
3% were for 31%.
We're for it.
The only two that were pretty widely supported were LR5 and ag.
okay.
And I think when you talk about bees, I think that's a pretty reasonable,
And that's a pretty large,
yeah.
okay.
I like that personally, just because those lots afford the space for that, so it shouldn't be a problem. Even for neighboring properties.
So LR 5 and ag is what you're saying?
That and the data that we have from those areas supports
Mhm.
the approval, which is a big thing to me too.
And I think it's important that we at least try with bees.
Brent, what do you think?
I've voiced my concerns. I think we have bigger fish to fry than, look at all the people here that want bees, There's no one here that wants bees. Why are we talking about it? Why are we taking time out of our night to talk about bees? I'd throw that in the trash.
There was quite the crowd in the other couple meetings we've had.
If like you expand the map, you can have bees and the rest is Isabella County. I would bet farmers would let you put, beehives in the woods next to their fields and they wouldn't say a word. But I don't know about just allowing amateur beekeeping in the village. I mean, it doesn't fit the rest of our zoning codes that we have. Like, it doesn't fit the look and feel of the village. Like I said, I had to put windows in my garage doors because we were worried about what my neighbors would think about my barn. And Paul caught hell about his barn. That it looked terrible. Remember all the people that were mad about that? That's his barn that he paid with his own money, and now we have a point system for barns. We're just gonna let people have bees, like. Then I think if we're gonna go through with this stuff, we need to take a look at a lot of other things. I think you just really
Yeah,
open
we're-
a can of worms.
Yeah, that, what's gonna be next? Yeah.
Right, like I want a 40 by 60 pole barn, but the max is 1,200 square feet. How come my neighbor can have bees and chickens, but I can't have a 40 by 60 pole barn? Cause they don't wanna look at my barn, I don't wanna look at your chickens, I don't wanna look at your bees. See what I'm saying? Like, I think you're just gonna create fighting amongst our residents for no one in the crowd to support them. And I mean, I don't know what people's honey intake is, you can't sell any of this honey, so I don't know what you're gonna do with all this honey. I don't,
Legally, you can, you're not supposed to sell the eggs either. The roadside sales are illegal, have been for some time.
well,
Had to stop,
like,
but
it'd be against our code too, what we have wrote, that you couldn't sell them for, you couldn't sell any of the stuff, no matter what. Which I guess you'd give away, but like, we don't allow VRBOs, we don't allow Airbnbs. We have rules, and there's just an order to it. I don't agree with all of them. I really don't, but I see that there's things that are bigger than my personal preference. And I mean, I know bees are good, I know they're great, they're just not great for our community.
well, being that we're specifically talking about bees. Why do you think bees wouldn't fit into the community here?
What good do you think they'll bring? What's one positive they're gonna bring to the village?
They do help with flora. As far as pollination and helping the ecosystem stay healthy, that's. I don't want bees personally, so I'm not trying to, but I was asking, if there was like specifics that you thought would be negatives to the community in general.
I just think there can be property disputes and stuff like that when people, if one of my neighbors puts a beehive. Back behind my house. You betcha I'm gonna be spraying pesticides like crazy,
And,
what
and
do you think they're gonna think about? I mean,
and you're not the only one. I think that's gonna be an issue. I think it's gonna bring about other problems.
and like I see how curious, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. And we have flowers and they'll watch the honeybees like pollinate the flowers. But that's fine, they know not to touch them, but what happens when they get a little curious and they pop a lid off and, they're looking
Well,
at the hives.
it shouldn't be in somebody else's yard anyways. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm just saying
Yeah.
your children shouldn't be that far into somebody else's property,
They're curious, if they
open
figure out
their
what's in those
boxes.
white boxes, I mean.
Well, then that's natural selection, Brent. Sorry. And if your kids go that far on neighboring property and open, an enclosure on their property.
No, again, I'm fine with that too, but I think if we start allowing this stuff
Oh, I
to keep,
totally, I
to
totally
keep
agree.
things even, if we're gonna do the look and feel of what we have, we're gonna have to redo so much stuff.
I totally agree, because like this week, we're talking about, or this month, we're talking about bees. Next month, we're gonna be with chickens. And if we say yes to bees, then, the chicken folks will be, well, we can have bees, but not chickens now, and where does it end? It's gonna be the problem. If we feel that we have to put something in zoning because of this, because the community is bringing it up, I don't think we have data from the majority of the community by any means. So the data we have is just from those that participated, which is really a small sampling of our community. So we can't even really base the general wants or needs of the community from the information we have. Bare minimum though, if we feel that we need to do it, I think we need to do it potentially, like we said, in the ag and L5, communities that wanted it, with the data we have, but offer the larger lots so that they will be less of a nuisance to smaller neighboring properties in the, those communities that I think it'd be more of an issue there. Like where I'm at, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like huge setbacks, like let's say 250 foot off a property line. That's different, that's a long ways away, and like, obviously, I think the ag, can make sense, but. anything where you could have a neighboring clash, and I don't even know, I don't know who these people are that want bees. I haven't heard of one person that would actually start a bee cow.
There was a couple people in the audience that said that they didn't say they wanted bees, they said they were pro bees, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's been demonstrated that, I guess we haven't,
Have we had any written requests?
phone requests.
How many?
One
About
person,
one?
one thing, yeah.
Yeah. Um. I don't know if that justifies putting something into law, because if we put something in zoning, we are creating a new law for our community. And, you know, if we've only had one serious inquiry about it. I don't know if that was justification enough to. Put something on the books that's going to. You know, potentially affect everybody and create some issues within the community. You know. But that's just my opinion.
Okay,
It's not just one. Male is one.
Well, that's called, yes.
The people that actually stay here.
Well, I understand
Taking
that.
up, taking surveys,
Mhm.
a lot more than one person.
Right, but like I said, though. How many people overall did the surveys?
115.
Right, overall, 115 out of our overall population, what percentage is that?
That's the normal percentage of
5%.
participation.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, as far as us having data to show whether the community actually supports it or not, that's not a proper example, or, you know.
I don't think I don't think it's been demonstrated that there's a real need for having bees. I just don't think that it's a real
But we allow,
need for it.
but we allow people to use our property to, like, if they wanna have bees, to keep them out there.
And if the council wanted to,
Like, if people wanna have bees, like, I'm not opposed to that, like,
What about the same folks that were in here with chickens too, are we not?
let them use them out there.
Yeah, you know. Not to try to sound vindictive, but I mean, saying that's.
We start down that slope.
Yes.
Yeah,
I understand the slippery slope.
Thought, though. That's a good thought. That there are options.
Well, I have seen some smaller communities that will have a community garden slash, you know, where they've had community chicken coops. And community members were allowed to come out and help take care of them and get eggs, you know, and if they wanted to do bees, I don't recall bees specifically, but, you know, on, you know, community property like that. But then you're gonna look at, you know, insurance issues, if you're gonna have, you know, community members out there,
and more objectively from my perspective to you would be how long are you obligating that property for that use as opposed to something that we may need to use it for differently in the future?
I mean, that goes to like my lake lot situation, you know, if I put a colony of bees on my T lot over there. Who would wanna buy Mike's property that's right next door, cause you couldn't build 100 feet from where I put a
Sure.
beehive, like, you just couldn't. It'd be impossible.
Yeah, I thought we narrowed the discussion
Yes.
down to LR5 and
Right,
ag.
that's all
Not
we're
talking-
talking about. Is
Yeah,
that
I don't know why we keep going back to
Right.
LR1 and
you know,
LR2.
Right.
I think we,
Yeah, we're just talking about those two
So the
now.
way I see us talking then is ag and LR5.
And I think ag, you probably already can do it, quite frankly. You're really talking LR5.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
LR5,
13 properties, something like that.
and we would mention ag in there too.
Yeah, ag, I think you could probably already do it because it's
Yeah.
already zoned to ag.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I was saying. The rest I
So
think
what
it
you're,
makes sense.
this is what I hear us saying is. We don't want to necessarily stop people from doing it, but by the same token, we don't want it close by to anybody else. For the general ambiance of the community. And we don't want it in LR1. That's been pretty obvious.
It can't be.
And so the chair will entertain a motion to either put them in LR5 and or not do it at all. I mean, that seems the only two options we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're dancing around it, but that's
Yes.
basically what we're saying. We're saying, well, you're either in favor of nothing or you're in favor of LR5, they can do it. That's the way I'm reading the room.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you on the ag, they probably can do that
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, I think the LR5 is okay with the exception of the stuff right there on Coldwater Road by the river. Or just south that, cause that's by like the little flower barn, isn't it?
Yeah, that literally is his name, it's his parents' property. It's part of it.
Yeah,
And across the street.
That's Gatehouse's property, then you have the property off of Bonanza that is unplatted. And you have there are 3 parcels right south of the bridge on the east side.
Yeah,
And then you got, you know, the wilderness area at El Camino and Coldwater where the original river channel is.
so if you did LR5, then you made it so it was like a 200-foot setback from the property line, it would kind of eliminate those ones too.
Potentially.
And it would only make like over here, yeah, that makes sense, and you know, some of these huge parcels. They could be out of sight, out of mind, you know, they're way away. Yeah, I wouldn't be totally opposed to that.
so what do we wanna do?
okay,
We
so
have to-
we're saying LR5 and ag. And then Brent is talking about changing the setbacks and things, so. And I don't mind one way or the other, we'd have to have another hearing no matter what, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So if we're gonna, so then we're just gonna table it till the next
You
meeting?
would postpone it for me to bring these back, and what I would recommend is you postpone it till at least March, so that if you decide to do something with chickens in February, you can do both at the same time,
Okay,
as opposed to,
so what are the changes we wanna make then? We wanna change the setback, is 200 feet too far?
Right now it's 100, is that correct?
I don't know, I would have to like do a little measuring just to see, I don't know.
do you say that, or do you say that if you can't maintain a setback of X amount, then you're treated as a special land use, so you would have to notify neighbors within 300 feet before you could get a permit.
That would be a way to do it, yeah.
You know, that's
And
one
that would
option.
give neighboring properties that may be close,
Right, the
yeah.
option to respond.
right,
Mhm.
yeah. Which would eliminate some of the potential, disagreements, you know.
True. Be settled up front as opposed.
Well, I know why Brent's saying that, though,
Yeah.
you eliminate all arguments if you say 250. Because,
I mean, that tells
That's
you your
what-
parcel's big enough for,
right,
if
that,
you're
and
250 off a property line.
so you don't, there's no wiggle room for, you know, you got 2 neighbors
Oh,
say it's
you're
okay
saying
within
right.
300 feet, but the
250
third one
off the
says
property
no,
line?
Right,
he or she is the jerk.
So I mean, we don't have to mess with the bee nets or anything, like, they're
Right.
gonna be so far off a property line, like. They couldn't bother anyone. They're
200 feet even work,
As I say, are the majority of those properties,
that large?
size enough,
Well,
sizable enough?
The reason I say it is because of those houses right there.
Like this property right here. $222 feet.
If you said 150, that'd be pretty far.
From the
more than
property
we
line.
currently have, yes.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Stick it back
currently it's
here.
from a dwelling versus a property
You're
line.
200.
You know, so his house is further away on their property, you could probably have it closer to your property line as long as it's 100 feet from their existing dwelling from the neighboring property.
So 200 foot roughly from another dwelling. Cause yeah, like where you're at, I mean.
Yeah.
That's pretty far away from stuff.
Yeah.
So it gives options if they so choose. And there are safety, that's a safety protocol there.
You know, you're not gonna be able to do it here, because there's. That's their
Well,
property,
currently it's 125.
100 is what we have to drive.
100?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's 100 feet from an existing dwelling on neighboring property.
you know, you put it here, you're 250,
You don't think 100 feet would be enough, Brent?
300.
I don't know.
That's
think.
pretty
I've never really walked up
ways.
to a beehive like that.
I have, and I'm allergic to bees.
I like the
We have
idea
no,
of,
we were hunting, I mean, they're no problem.
Right.
yeah, I like the idea of having,
Hunt right by them. As a matter of fact.
It's cool. Season.
Oh, sure. What, Joe?
yeah, I like the idea of having it from, you know, the participants' property lines versus the, you know, existing dwellings. You know, and that would mandate that there, you know, would have to be a decent sized lot, you know, to,
They're going to have to apply for a permit.
I don't mind the special land use thing too, so the neighbors will be notified
Yes.
if they have a
think that's
big
a good
problem with it, like. You know, they can come to a meeting and they can complain about it then, you know, that's fair, you know, at least they have a chance. To say something.
And you're not on the planning commission, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you care? Mhm.
Well, what's their pleasure? What do you wanna do? What direction do we wanna give Tim? Is it 100 feet, 120 feet, 150, 200?
I like 150.
from the existing,
Bob likes 150.
50 yards.
Yeah, 50 yards is pretty good.
Yeah,
now is that from the existing dwellings or is that from property lines?
I don't know if you,
I mean, currently it's.
you can't do it because your property line would have to be 300 feet wide then.
Yeah,
So from dwellings is what you're saying.
I think dwellings, wouldn't you? Yeah,
Include
50 yards is pretty far.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, the only reason I bring up the property line for the participating property is so that it is contained within their property. That it's not going to be harboring a property line so that if somebody does have children that decide to go over there poking a stick at the box, because it's right at the property line, but it means that 100 foot or 150 foot from the home, you know.
it's gonna take them a while to get home is what's gonna happen.
Right, you know, that's why, that's the only reason I bring about, you know, setting the setback from within the property lines, not what's on the neighboring property, because then it would ensure that it's contained within your property line.
I'm going 50 yards away
Yeah,
to do it. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, 150 feet from an existing dwelling though.
yeah, I got you.
In some of these,
They're 10 feet away from their
some of
property.
these maps that we were just looking at, then it could be close to the.
Right.
The actual shared property line, you know, you know,
so Tim is going to come back with what we suggested. Yes?
We haven't given them a
Tim
direction.
doesn't know what we've suggested yet, because we haven't.
Total 150.
$1 increase that back to 150 feet from
Right.
dwellings.
Right,
Revisit in March after you build chickens.
perfect.
And remember this for chickens, because that is different from the property line than the dwelling too. All right. Okay,
Yes, thank you.
dealt with that. Let's go to new business before ordinance. Ordinance 2025-01, Cook property rezoning.
Your first item of new business in 2025 is an ordinance that comes to you from the Planning Commission. They held a public hearing at their meeting last Tuesday, and they are recommending this to the council for adoption. It would amend the zoning map of the village of Lake Isabella. Those of you who travel on Coldwater Road may remember a home across from Unified Brands, Randell, whatever they are these days.
Electrolux.
Electrolux, yep, being demolished this last summer. That was on a 1 acre parcel that was carved into a bigger field. It was zoned LR1, the rest of the field was zoned ag. The house being gone, we would like to return that parcel to an ag status to match the rest of the property. Because it is an ordinance, the village charter requires that the village council hold a public hearing. And because it is a zoning related ordinance, state law requires that you hold a public hearing after a 15-day notification. So the process would be, someone would need to formally move to introduce the ordinance and schedule a hearing for the February 19th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Latte. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
That was brought up a long time
Yeah.
ago, wasn't
They did the rest of it like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it a ton of times.
Last meeting,
Yeah, I gave you the heads up last meeting.
Yeah.
But
2025-02.
Also coming to you from the planning commission. This one, has got a little bit more meat on the bones. The council set direction a few years ago, a couple years ago, that when it comes to amending the zoning ordinance, you prefer to see it in larger chunks as opposed to ordinance here, ordinance there type stuff. So we've been sitting on several and went through the ordinance last year with planning commission and came up with a list of several amendments for you to consider. What I would recommend is that you guys ruminate on this a month and discuss it at your February meeting, so you get the full gist of everything that's been talked about. But in summary, you've got all the amendments right here. Chapter 1212 would address a conflict with our animal control ordinance. So defer to the animal control ordinance for what you could do in terms of chickens or other things. Page 8, and this is all based on the red page numbers at the bottom of the ordinance. Would put limitations on commercial logging of property in residential districts. So we saw this issue flare up several times last year, where people were just coming into their residential lots and logging it off and leaving a mess. Chapter 1216, it would prohibit the development of new private roads with the exceptions of bonus divisions under the Land Division Act, or if you're doing a site condo or a flat. 1220, these are our small scale alternative energy system regulations. Basically, we were saying that you have to use that for the use on the property, your home, your garage, whatever. You could sell excess back, but you couldn't just put up a windmill to sell to the grid, essentially, or solar panels to sell to the grid on big lots. 1224. This is our fence regulations. Clarifies you put certain fences on the side property line. We're gonna allow snow fences a month earlier because people are putting a month earlier. We're addressing setbacks for garden fences and also like raised planter boxes in front yards. There are certain areas where, based on the tree cover, you have no other option than to put something out front. 1232, this is our single family residential regulations. Just making it clear that barn dominiums meet our code for single family development, that we're fine with that type of development. We increase the design options on single family homes and reduce the offset for street side facades. So these are changes that we think help make development easier, more attainable, lower costs. 1234, these are accessory structure regulations in your residential districts. Add some clarifications for carports. Removing the special land use approval if you're gonna jump the street for a detached garage, if it's a single story garage. So if you're gonna build a 2-story, still special land use, but if you're just building a single story across the street, that would be a staff approval from this point forward. Right, and then a little bit more controversial points here for you guys to think about. Potentially allowing sheds on vacant lots. That would be done also through the planning commission with like a pattern book or a pre-established, like these are the sheds we allow on vacant lots. Removes the formula for the LR2 district when it comes to garage points, removes the requirement for matching materials in the LR1 district for siding. So this would allow metal siding on garages in the LR1 district. You still have to match color and board orientation, but it would allow metal again. And also removing the cap on the garage door height from 10 feet to 14 feet. That one came through the ZBA as well. They support that change. The ordinance doesn't actually say you can develop a single family home in 2 districts, so we made that clear that you could and what those regulations would be. Lowering the requirement for fencing for childcare centers and daycares. This came through feedback last year when we amended the ordinance to allow for group daycares. Both of those applicants said, you know, the fencing requirements are pretty steep if you could lower those. So we did some research and found that those were more appropriate. Modifying the design requirements for utility scale solar projects. There are some new laws in the state of Michigan in terms of site suitability, that kind of stuff. They got passed last year. Page 34 or 43 and 44. The amendments here, right now, we have a cap in terms of your structure coverage or your impermeable surface on your lot. Getting rid of that completely is you have a stormwater plan approved by us. So if you're gonna do a development project and you need to manage your stormwater, once you manage that, you know, we think you should be able to do what you want with the rest of the property, so. Like I said, there are some meatier items in this one. There are some things that I think would be wise for you guys to think about for a month and come back with questions and talk about. So I would definitely not recommend it be introduced tonight, because once it's introduced, you can't change it. But
Yeah, because the shed thing, if you read your notes, means on the water too. So, keep that in mind.
and two of your planning commission members, Gray and Simon, both wanted to make sure that their concerns about allowing sheds on vacant lots were entered into the record. So I included that in your guys' note. They expressed concern specifically that it would potentially invite nuisance activity, be loud, you know, people want to stay overnight in sheds, that kind of stuff. So.
No,
Can't be having fun out there in the water, that's for sure. Don't want anybody having fun.
yeah,
Better not make loud noises.
yeah,
Yeah, so they can get rid of ORVs and golf carts and people will be quiet and happy, right?
3, proposed ordinance 2025-01.
So your first resolution under new business, is just a procedural item. You're required, to list your depository institutions. That is Fort Knox on the screen. While we have quite a bit of treasure, we don't need Fort Knox.
Yeah. Not much left there anyway.
We maintain right now depository relationships with Isabella Bank and Mercantile Bank. Occasionally we use Independent Bank, Fifth Third, and a few others for CDs that we purchase through Isabella Bank, but those are all still fine, except for because you're using Isabella Bank as the access point, but.
So,
Yeah, you need to adopt the resolution.
yeah, we,
All right.
Cheryl entertain a motion. Right, if there's any questions for Tim on that? If not, Cheryl entertain a motion. Motion made by Latte to accept resolution 2025-01. Is there a second? Larry Way seconds it. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Carol Shannon, yes. Joe Latte,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
and Dave Jorgensen.
Yes, motion carries. Resolution of 2025-02.
Your second item tonight, or your second resolution under new business item 4, is a resolution that formalizes our move to the West Michigan Health Insurance Pool for our Blue Shield coverage here. This was something that we had looked at last year, but we had missed our renewal date. Our renewal date is February 1st. So we got our renewal notice this year that was going up 14% with our current provider. We'll make sure to reach back out to the West Michigan Pool. And they are providing us with a plan that is the same coverage as we have now, maybe a little bit better on the drug end, or less than we're currently paying this year. So it is a 3-year obligation. They've got a 100% retention rate. Locally, Beale City Schools just joined the pool.
Just admin, not teachers.
Oh, just admin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But
All right. Any further questions for Tim? Discussion?
No,
It's a
but-
cost saving move. It's,
Yeah.
you know.
If that's what you
it's kind
think's
of a
the
no-brainer,
best,
yeah.
I don't know that much about these pools. But if that's what you think, you know, is best, you're on the
Well,
coverage.
Yeah.
It's offering better coverage for less money.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, like, we shopped it, we shopped with our current provider, other plans, and none of them were going to provide coverage on certain things that we're utilizing right now. It's like, all right, do we then get into an FSA scenario so we can offset those costs? And at that point in time, you've lost any cost savings you've had right there, so. You know, this is I included the materials in your packet. There's 100 and some member institutions, lots of schools, lots of counties are doing it, community colleges, municipalities, so.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept, resolution 2025-02.
Motion made by Peter, second, 2020-02, Is there a second?
I'll do it.
Seconded by Shannon. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Joe Latte,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
If,
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes, Dave Torres.
Yes, pass.
Okay.
Okay, planning and zoning report.
Annually, the planning commission is required to submit to the legislative body a report detailing planning and zoning related activity with recommendations that is received and reviewed by the legislative body. That report is in your packet tonight. It was reviewed by the planning commission at the meeting last week. Some of the highlights for the year. In 2024, we issued 59 zoning permits, which was an increase of 3 from 2023. 16 of those 59 were for brand new homes, which was an increase of 7 from 2023. ZBA met twice, approved 1 request and denied 1 request. We did 1 ordinance amendment, which was specific to allowing group daycare homes. Planning Commission met 6 times, and we also received a grant from MISTA to do our target market housing analysis as part of our master plan update. The master plan update is the big item that we've got to knock out this year, really in the first half of the year, because we're a little bit behind in that schedule. But all in all, I've got a list of the trainings that was completed by various members of our development related boards. We are still a redevelopment ready community. We are essentially certified. That's what the big placard out there by my door is. And yeah, all in all, report follows the format that we typically have provided you guys with. We didn't do any site plans in the last year, but we did have a site plan review activity in November. And what we did for that is we found the original plans for the condo development.
Oh.
And treated that as a site plan, so they were gonna come in and build the remaining 2 buildings from that development and talked about, you know, what that project would have looked like and so on and so forth. So we've tried to do a little bit more of that each year where we'll take some time in a meeting and do a training exercise. Because admittedly, we don't do a lot of site plan work. We don't have a lot of that type of activity because we're not commercially focused in terms of our development. So it's important to hit on those finer points, just to remind people about the process, what we've got to go through when those come up. You know, both boards right now have really great people on it. The community is fortunate to have the planning commission and ZBA members that we do. The ZBA has been thrilled with the amendments we made in the ordinance in 2022 that, you know, basically give them the flexibility to look at projects more individually in terms of what criteria to meet. You know, so. You guys don't have to do anything other than the minutes have to reflect that you received it.
Received.
The one change I did is, on the first page here, it's got the chart of everybody.
Okay.
I did want to recognize that 3 of these former individuals are members of the Wall of Honor. So that's Ed Spade, Bill Dunham, and Dave McGrath. So they're recognized in that report. And I thought that was something we could make a point to be doing in future publications when we, recognize people like that. So.
All right. Thank you. And housing target market analysis report.
Yeah. So.
I'm a little confused
What's that?
about this, so go ahead.
Yeah, I went through it, like on this meeting's.
It's a 200-page report that you guys got emailed out.
Yeah.
So when we developed our current master plan, we did it. It was kind of a watershed moment where we intentionally changed our economic development focus. So when people think of economic development in terms of local government, a lot of times it comes down to what type of employers can you attract, for years it was, can you do this, big industrial development or, these big massive employers, that type of thing. And, when the economy went south in 2008, that theory kind of shifted more to how do you support entrepreneurship? How do you support, your small business community? And, an offshoot of that was where we kind of landed and said, based on our infrastructure reality in the village, we don't have water, we don't have sewer, we're not on an MDOT road, we don't have rail, let's be realistic about what we are. And what we are is a place people want to live because we have a lake. So let's not mess around with that stuff. Let's focus in on why people want to be here. And so at the time, the East Michigan Council of Governments were doing TMAs for all the counties in the area. And we had our own little data set included because we were one of the biggest 3 municipalities in Isabella County. So we use that data and some other data from like ESRI to really focus on a strategy of being, focused on quality of life residential development. We want you to live here. I don't care if you work in Mount Pleasant, we want you to live here. And if you look at that data from 2016, one of the things that it did, and one of the things I asked was included in this report, is it broke down your lifestyle clusters. So, if you are concerned about Uncle Sam knowing your innermost private details, the government doesn't know this. Experian, your credit bureau, knows way more about you than you probably want them to know. So based on your spending habits, and this is the 2016 data, you're lumped into one of 90 some different lifestyle clusters. So these were our top lifestyle clusters back in the day. Unspoiled splendor, town elders, aging in place. And one that we kind of homed in on was stock cars and state parks. And we had 10% of our housing stock or 10% of our residents falling into that category, which was, substantially higher than the national average. But if you look at what that demographic group talks about in experience data, they're people that have a lot of toys. They have, a need for storage. So using this type of data, we then made changes to our land use regulations, say, hey, let's start allowing garages again. Because we had not allowed garages of any significant size for a long time. When I started here, we weren't really allowing detached garages, period.
Right, they were supposed to be.
They weren't, yeah. So I
They were
mean,
supposed to be attached.
There's an evolution to how these have happened in our community over a 20-30 year period that to get to where we are today, there was a lot that happened, in terms of, you could have built your garage 15 years ago, Brent, just straight up not happening, period. Not going on at all. So looking at these clusters and understanding that these are the demographic that are attracted to be in our community, what are the land use things we need to do to support that type of development? Because we don't want to be contrary to what is naturally trying to happen in our community. So when we looked at the need to update our master plan this year, because it's been 5 years, actually last year. Said, you know, that was such a foundational aspect of what we came up with as a master plan. We really need to revamp that data. We really need a new data set to work with. It just so happened that MISTA was doing grants at the time, so we applied, we got a grant to do a study that we would not have been able to afford otherwise, you know, so. And looking at this data, some of the things that jumped out right away, that our consultant and I talked about. And I think we're gonna try and schedule a joint meeting of the Council Planning Commission with her. You know, you look at the wide range of housing options that a community can have. All of ours is really detached. That's what the market's gonna support. The market's gonna support anywhere between 15 and 50 new homes a year, new units in the community right now. And amazingly, when you start to look at the price point, the median price point was like 350-ish, that range. In terms of attached dwelling, you know, there is some opportunities there in terms of, you know, maybe a duplex type scenario, but they have to have private entrances that they can't see their neighbor, private yards, those type of things. So your market here is one that, you know, wants the private front yard, the private door, you know, it's not any type of, you know, apartment or urban type dwelling. She was very specific, you know, nothing too urban is going to match what is in your market here. You know, where there is an opportunity, specifically off the water, are more cottage style homes. So you think of your LR1 backlots in particular, there's definitely a market there, according to this data, if you were to have, you know, a 900 square foot dwelling size versus the 1,200 we have now. And all these are things that obviously go in the master plan and get talked about and how you implement, but, jump here. Yeah, page 10, your home value tolerance, Lake Isabella capture with new builds. 375 to 400 was, you know, the peak of that bell curve right there. Half of the new buyers will tolerate price ranges in 325 to 400 range is what this data shows, and that's monthly rent tolerance, 14 to 1,800 is what our market will support here. You know, and that's it's concerning to me in one sense that one of the things that made Lake Isabella what it is today was around 2008 and 10, we saw, you know, second homes turn into starter homes. We saw, you know, speculative, you know, home development for starter homes. There's nobody in the market doing that anywhere in our area. Like it just doesn't exist. We have to figure out a way to make that happen again in some capacity, because one of the things that make a community truly vibrant and thriving are people at all ends of the life journey. So people that are in that starter family phase and seeing the life experiences of their neighbors who are empty nesters or whatever, like you can't be a silo demographically. You have to have diversity in terms of where people are at in their life stage. Like it just doesn't work if you don't do it that way. And, you know, from a market standpoint, you know, what are things that we should be thinking of in terms of creative solutions to encourage that type of development again in our community? How do we even do it? Because there aren't people doing that in Isabella County. You know, when the market imploded in 2018, it didn't just get rid of a lot of builders then, it kept a lot of builders out. Because for a decade as a state, we said, this isn't a career path that has a future. You need to go do X, Y, and Z. So now that there's a demand, there's a shortage of people that can do that work. You know, when you look at the lifestyle clusters, you know, what the potential buyer market here is, you know, country five pragmatics are a big one, fast track couples, stock cars and state parks again, you know, so.
You know, okay. Back in the eighties and nineties,
Mhm.
there was two guys, I've forgotten their names, Hanson comes to mind. They're not around obviously anymore. But I think they built about a dozen of those little chalets.
Yep.
It was a pattern home, just to get, and they were hired, I think, by the corporation at the time to start doing that. And they would sell them, and it was really inexpensive housing, some of them were on the water. And nice little chalet, and it was only like 12, barely met the minimum, 1,200 square feet.
Yeah.
And that's how they started, and that was way back then, and that's what Lake Isabel started on. I mean, that house down here on Clubhouse, Norval Morey's old house that used to own Moorbark, he's passed on, that had tennis court and everything. He bought 8 lots there. That was the biggest house. That thing isn't even, you know, anything compared to Dr. Ho's house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's evolved.
Mhm.
But it started with those little homes. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about those back lots being able to restrict or to reinvent or reintroduce the smaller
families.
square footage so that there were starter homes.
Yeah.
Or empty nesters or so. I got your concept.
You know, and looking at.
It worked is all I'm saying.
It worked,
Yeah.
you know, and it provides a housing opportunity for a demographic that we want to attract. We want you to be able to buy your first home here, because then you're probably gonna buy your second home here. You're gonna be upward mobile in our community. You know,
So we did.
I've been here for almost 21 years at this point in time, and I can tell you when I started, I never heard anybody say that they were from Lake Isabella when you talked to them. They were from Detroit, or they were from, you know, Lansing, and then they moved here. You know, my kids and their friends, they say they're from Lake Isabella. That means something different as a community.
Yes, it does.
So,
Well, anecdotally, that's where we started.
Mhm.
A little small modular home on Circle Drive.
Mhm.
No garage, no nothing. Put a garage on it, put a driveway in it, sold it. Built a house on, you know,
Yeah.
another house. So I've done it 4 times. So I understand what you're talking, I get the concept. If you're ambitious, you can do that. People can do that. Afford them the opportunity to do that.
I'll work on some date options and get those out to you guys for when we could do a joint meeting, but
That would be helpful, I think.
yeah.
Like that idea. All right. Anything else for Tim? Public comment, second chance. Seeing none? Council comments? Seeing none? The next meeting is, we changed the date, right?
It is Wednesday, February 19th.
Wednesday, February 19th. That's for Emil and I. Because we're the ones that have tendency to miss meetings.
Yeah, I will add, I had a very,
I missed one meeting.
Well, I was supposed to run it and didn't show up.
His is the worst, you do know.
Yeah, it was bad.
He's never gonna outlive that.
I get a telephone call. Tim says, are you coming? I said,
tonight, boss?
coming where? It's Tuesday. Oh. Completely.
I did have, lunch last week with Brian Smith, the new administrator for Isabella County. Very good, productive lunch. He is making a point to get out to local units to visit, with our schedule being the same as theirs typically. I did put a bug in his ear that, hey, in February and March, our dates are not on that Tuesday, so you may see him in one of the next two meetings come out and just introduce himself, have a conversation, you know. Let him hear your thoughts on the county.
Okay,
I have a question. Have you heard anything about your application to the county for planning commission?
No, it was not on their agenda tonight. None of the appointments were on tonight's agenda because they met at 5. They're only,
Oh,
their schedule's different now. So they did a 5 o'clock meeting, they did a 7 tonight, so. Nor have I heard anything about your VA application.
okay, cool.
okay, if anything else,